Welcome to PCMC. I'm Mike Bongiorno. I'm here once again with Vin Forte. Hey, Vin.
Hey.
Vin is the host of Wrestle Rap.
Yeah.
He's also one of the co-hosts here. You're on about a quarter of the episodes.
Panel, yeah.
Or a fifth of the episodes.
Yeah, something like that.
You've been on a lot of episodes of this show.
Yeah.
So today's episode is about HBO.
The home box office.
Box office.
The first thing I think of when I think of HBO is
Oh, I love it. So exciting.
yeah. It's flying into the giant silver HBO. This blew my mind as a kid. And the different color streaks coming out. Yeah, look at that.
Oh, I'm hyped for a premium movie.
Oh.
So yeah,
Did I just go to a Giorgio Moroder concert?
this episode is about HBO Memories. We're not going to talk about the history of it. We're not going to talk about the year it came out.
We're not getting into Captain Midnight.
We're going to talk about when me and Vin were young, what it was like. And for you youngins out there, in a world of streaming with your Disney Pluses, you don't know what it was like. The excitement of a premium channel. And HBO, it's called HBO because that means home box office. What does that mean? The box office is the place at a movie theater where they sell you the tickets. The whole sort of concept was, we're going to show you movies on TV, except we're not going to cut out stuff like on network. We're not going to cut out.
You got to get the movie.
Yeah, you're going to get the movie. We're not going to cut out sex, violence, anything.
Yeah, and we're going to do our own original program.
Right. Although a lot of the early HBO, they would actually have in the corner would say HBO. That's something they stopped doing pretty quickly. But I remember they used to have in the corner the little Mylar that said HBO. Yeah, it was HBO. Their big thing was every Saturday night would be movie night. And they would premiere a new movie on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And if you didn't catch it on Saturday night, don't worry. They're going to play it all week, basically. Right? Did you get excited for the Saturday night movie?
Yeah.
I remember it being a big deal. I remember being hey, what's going on? What's tonight's movie?
Because here's the thing you also have to remember that is lost on, I would say, a lot more people, that at a certain time, there was just one HBO for a little while.
Right.
Or a lot of people only had HBO.
It was, now they have these packages where when you get a cable provider.
It's like HBO Comedy, HBO
here's
Action.
5 HBOs, here's 5 Stars, here's 5 Showtimes. It's not a big deal. HBO, I remember in my family, it was a big deal because it was $30 extra. It was it cost a lot. And
but you were getting full movies.
Yeah.
But you were getting full movies.
And I remember begging for HBO, and finally my dad was like, you know what, guys? Hey, guess what? Hey, guys, guess what? We're getting HBO. And we were like, yeah! So exciting. Because here's another thing that used to happen. HBO and Showtime and Cinemax, they would do free weekends.
I was just going to bring up the free weekends.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. It would usually be like Memorial Day weekend or the 4th of July weekend, and you would get basically they would put on their A game.
Right. It would be basically when you would tune into the channel, instead of seeing nothing, you'd see it, and it would say throughout the weekend, it would say in the bottom free weekend, and it was a big pitch for you to get into it, and they'd show all their best stuff, so you'd be like, oh, and it probably worked. I bet a lot of the subscriptions came from the free weekends. And I when I was a kid, before we had it, free weekend, it was oh yeah, it's free weekend. I guess I'm not going out this weekend.
Right. It's HBO free weekend. We're all staying in.
I'm fucking staying in.
Staying in and watching Homeward Bound this weekend or whatever was on.
So, God, there's so much to talk about. One thing that HBO was famous for was back in the early days, before they had a lot of content and before they made their own content, they would play movies a lot. There were some HBO mainstays where it's like, a famous example would be the movie Clue.
Yeah.
Not a box office success, but when it came to HBO, they played the fuck out of it, and it became a cult show. It became a cult movie through HBO.
Yeah, I remember like in the mid to late 90s, a lot of movies sort of getting a lot of play on HBO. I remember for some reason the Cable Guy sticks out.
Yes, that's a big one.
Cable Guy was a pretty big one.
I remember watching My Girl 2 a lot. My Girl 2 was on HBO a lot. Robin Hood Men in Tights
was on all the time.
Right? That was like every day was Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh God, that you're right. That and Spaceballs.
Yeah,
was on HBO all the time.
Yeah, and by the way, we're not talking about HBO on demand. We're talking about you turn it on, and there's stuff Chappelle. On. Yeah.
They would do comedy, but like comedy half hours. They would do.
Yes. The comedy half hours was like a series where like for like I guess 6 weeks or 8 weeks, every week would be the same set, and actually probably all filmed on the same day, and it would be little half hours. But then HBO was famous for the hours,
right?
Robert Klein and George Carlin really were the trailblazers,
right? If you got an hour, like you were big time, Like any up and come, not any up and comer, but like if you were up and coming, you get the half hour.
Yeah.
Like your Patton Oswalt's at the time, like your Dave Chappelle's.
Your
Jeff Garland's. But if you were big time, you get the full hour.
Yes. And some of those I think are classic. Some of those I think are the peak of those performers. I'm going to say it. Margaret Cho's half hour, where she's wearing the black leather suit, that's I think her best special. I don't think she's ever been as good as she was in that half hour.
Probably. It's funny, you brought up Robert Klein.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting one because I feel like, and no disrespect to Robert Klein, because I know he listens every week.
The I can't stop my leg bit.
But I feel like he has had, unlike someone like George Carlin, he has had zero cultural not relevance, like
he's
longevity.
Lost it. I think there's a generation, like someone like Seinfeld would be like, "Oh, Robert Klein was a hero," but I think
But like, I remember watching that last Robert Klein special. What was it like the amorous busboy of the kid? Like already, I don't like that title.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of him like telling old sort of Jewish New York stories, and him telling stories about Rodney Dangerfield, and it's like. I don't know, like nothing about it grabbed me. It all felt like it was from a different era that like has not aged well.
Yeah.
Like there were several points in the special I remember where like he was almost like scolding the crowd, like you don't gay, fucking. It's like that's never a good sign.
Yeah, it's not a good sign.
That's like I've always said. I'm glad George Carlin had one last special before he died because the one before his last special
was not good.
Not only was it, I'm not gonna say it was not good. But it was definitely like it could definitely be charitably described as a downer.
Yeah, that's true. I just looked up on Vulture the 20 greatest stand-up specials of all time.
Ooh.
Number 20, I'm going to agree with this. Eddie Izzard, Dressed to Kill.
Yeah.
That was
and not all of these are probably on HBO, but let's go through them.
I bet a lot are going to be.
Oh yeah.
I bet a lot are going to be. This was an HBO special. It was 1998. Holy moly. And this was really the American introduction to Eddie Izzard.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
And he was this, he calls himself transvestite, not transgendered, so I'm going to call him that. Yeah. This transvestite comedian. Right, because he's gendered male.
Yeah.
He's like a mainstay now, but like this was the first thing, and like people still quote this special, like Cake or Death. People still quote that. This is I'm gonna skip the ones that are Netflix.
A lot of Netflix ones on there.
Roseanne Barr, the Roseanne Barr Show. This was a 1987 special.
Oh, I remember seeing this on HBO.
Oh, Janine Garofalo, HBO half-hour comedy.
Yeah,
that's a classic.
That's a good one.
From 1995.
Yeah.
And in some ways, she is thought of as like she denies this, but she's thought of as like the mother of alternative comedy.
Yeah.
She was the first person that like sort of, she really threw out all the showmanship of it and just would bring her own. She would bring her notes on stage and sort of read from notes and yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because that was a whole the thing about like what people want to call alt comedy.
Yeah,
I think it's very misleading to call it alt comedy because that implies that it's like very Andy Kaufman, like I'm going to do something really radical. When more often than not, it was a lot of young people who just looked at a lot of like the tropes of like old comedy and went like, well, why the fuck can't I bring my notes on stage? Like, who says I have to? Like, what?
Well, the alt originally referred to the spaces that you performed in. It was alternative to the comedy clubs. You'd be in bars and you'd be in coffee shops, and that was the alt.
Yeah.
But then the alts came to mean something more ideological. Okay, this is an HBO special from 1985. Stephen Wright, a Stephen Wright special.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen Wright, holy moly. Paula Poundstone, Cats, Cops, and Stuff from 1990. I remember, I saw this one a lot. Paula Poundstone. Is this?
Paula Poundstone, Dr. Katz mainstay.
Fuck yeah, she was. Oh, wait. Killing Them Softly.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle. Classic. Yeah. That's a classic. If you've never seen Dave Chappelle Killing Them Softly, you've not lived. Right? I mean, God, I must have seen it 100 times.
Yeah. Is that HBO or is that Showtime?
Let's see.
Because I feel like if that's the one that was like right after Chappelle's show or like during it, I think that was Showtime.
I'm looking it up on IMDb and I'm getting everything except like where it came out.
Let me see.
Could it have been like syndicated?
Year 2000, this would have been HBO. Although, yeah, I'm not seeing where.
I feel like it was HBO. Showtime did the comedy special thing less.
Yeah, I just went to the Wikipedia page for it. It was Chappelle's first hour-long HBO special.
Okay. Yeah, that was a fucking big one. And of course, there's all of George Carlin's.
Yeah.
Which is like, that became his like masterwork. Like every couple years he was going to do a special. And it really changed comedy because people used to have acts. And that was their act. And they would do it fucking forever. And once the HBO comedy thing happened, it was like, no, like you would throw away, you would record a special and then you'd start again.
Yeah.
Some people, you know, they only did it twice in their life. Some people, like Carlin, did it every 3 years.
Yeah, but eventually, like, it forced you to refresh your act. You couldn't get by just, like, doing the same, like, Hamburger Jones jokes.
Exactly. Hamburger.
This guy was like a Jamaican parking attendant. Muyaka. Hamburger. It's the idea that, like, the inflection in his voice and saying hamburger is, like, that's the joke.
Yeah. Louis C.K. Shameless.
Yeah.
He's, you know, he's problematic now, but Shameless it's an amazing special. George Carlin, Carlin at Carnegie, 1977. God, it's funny if you watch, and that was another thing. HBO in the middle of the night would play a lot of specials.
Yeah. So
when I was in high school and I had insomnia and I just didn't want to go to sleep and I had to go to fucking school the next morning, I would be up all night watching. It'd be like, you'd see it like 12 o'clock would be like George Carlin from the 80s, and then at 1 o'clock would be like George Carlin from the 90s, and you'd be like, oh, fuck, I guess I'm not sleeping tonight.
Yeah.
I guess I'm making some bagel bites and watching some George Carlin tonight.
Well, this is a good segue because you had comedy specials that would play in the middle of the night, but then also in the middle of the night, once Watershed Hour came around, you'd get Real Sex and Taxicab Confessions.
I'll do you one better. The racy sitcom Dream On.
Oh, yeah.
Which would feature sex scenes and a lot of nudity, but was basically a sitcom. I cannot tell you how many times I masturbated to that show as a child. I remember one time I got in trouble because my dad had taped something off HBO for me and my brother, but the tape ran out. So he was taping a movie, but then it kept going. So we watched the movie, and then after it was a Dream On episode, and I was a kid, and I said to my brother, I was like, the show has boobies in it, and my mother was like, what? You can't watch that booby show, and she turned it off. But little did she know, in the middle of the night on weekends, I was watching that booby show. It's funny, in the world before internet pornography, the innocuous things the things you would see to titillate yourself.
Oh yeah, I would during the local news.
Oh boy.
They would.
Where is this going?
You will know exactly where it's going. They would always have the bumpers for come up tonight on Jay Leno, and then you would cut to Jay Leno or Conan being and they would film it after at the end of their show. Yeah. So you would see the guests that were going to be on. Yeah. And it would be tonight on the show we got Cameron Diaz, and I'd see the bumper and be like, ooh, Cameron Diaz is wearing a short dress tonight.
Oh, I better watch Jay later.
Yeah, I better watch Jay. The first and only time I've ever gone. I better watch Jay Leno.
I remember. I feel like this episode.
I said Jay Leno, and the door opened up.
I feel like this episode is going into
talking about me?
A different place right now. But I remember watching Howard Stern's for that, wanting to be titillated. Dream On, Real Sex,
which honestly
was often very, looking back now, it was actually really good documentary.
Yeah, it was,
but not very not very titillating. Yeah, it was a lot of. It was called Real Sex, and it was a lot of real people. You were lucky if there was one segment that was really hot.
Right, it would be a lot of at this small Vermont neighborhood, they do cuddle parties.
Yeah, and you'd be like, this isn't gonna be the one, and now I gotta wait 10 minutes before it's a new segment.
Yeah, and then puppetry of the penis is always a big one,
and it's
look at me bend my foreskin into a hamburger. It's I don't want to see that.
Yeah,
maybe I do, but I don't know. And then the even bigger cock tease was Taxi Cab Confessions. Because there was the one episode of Taxi Cab Confessions where some guy gets in the cab with his girlfriend and he's eating out his girlfriend in the back seat.
That's really the only one.
But then pretty much all the other ones are just person gets in the cab, the guy's oh, what's going on, my friend? And the guy's my fucking mom keeps calling me and she's got cancer. It's not really.
Yeah. A lot of it was not. It was not sexy.
No, it was I just got off work. Fuck it, I'm only making $12 an hour.
Why can't that show come back? That's still such a good idea.
Yeah,
it really is a great idea for a fucking show.
And then at the end of every segment, they would show the guy oh, we just recorded you. You want to sign away your rights?
I'd be like, yeah. Oh, where's the camera? Oh, there it is. Oh, I just ate my girlfriend out in this cab.
Yeah, I'm shocked no one ever was you fucking filming me this whole time.
Well, if that happened, we wouldn't have seen them.
Yeah.
So I bet that shit did happen.
I want to see
that's
those
an early reality show too. I mean, that was pre reality shows being a thing.
Yeah, but then they got a little too big for their britches, and that's when they started doing G-string divas.
Yeah.
And Cat House, which came much later.
Yeah, Cat House was 2005.
Yeah.
That one I found very sexy. That was a reality show about
the brothel, famous Nevada whatever brothel. But they knew what they were doing there because they would purposely slip in scenes of sex.
Yes.
Because the rest of it was just boring. It was just we gotta make revenue this month. It's well, okay, this is not.
And if you're somebody who doesn't understand what we're talking about, and you're HBO, the place that Sopranos came from, classy place, it's it wasn't always classy.
For every child?
It wasn't always classy, and it used to be. The thing it used to be was. TV is censored, but since you're paying directly to us, it's not an advertising model, it's direct payment. For that money, we're giving you things that you would not see on TV normally.
Yeah.
Like uncensored movies, like comedy specials where people curse, and movies with nudity and sexuality in it.
Oh, God, so many just softcore movies starring other Baldwin brothers.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, and some of those were like mainstay. Like I can't tell you how many times I saw God, what was that movie where it's like a book club of like middle-aged women, but like they all kind of like fuck people. They like fuck the pool boy.
Oh,
and a lot of those movies, no offense, would be like kind of like where like former A-listers would like sort of like end up.
Yeah, and it's like they wouldn't be the ones necessarily getting fully naked.
Yeah,
but they would still be in it.
Yeah. Ugh.
That's like all those softcore porns that were on HBO and Cinemax. It's like they had a bunch of porn clips. And they had to, like, do a wraparound.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're going to film a new wraparound and have a bunch of, like, middle-aged women talking about, like, oh, well, me and the husband spiced up our sex life.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Tell me about it. Well, And then, like, dream sequence, soft lighting.
Yeah.
And then it's just showing, like, a completely different sex movie.
Let's take a sharp 180.
Yeah.
And talk about Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Fraggle Rock, people don't realize, is the first HBO original show.
That's right.
Fraggle Rock, the Jim Henson show.
I remember the kids lineup. They had that. What was it? It was like Fairy Tales for Every Child.
Yes, I remember that.
Where it would be, that was a great show because it was like, it was like multicultural.
Yes, it would be like it was animated and it would be fairy tales, but they would put in, a real diverse group, some SJW. Blah, blah, blah.
That's like something I remember.
But that was way long before people were, neckbeards were crying about SJWs.
Yeah. Something I remember seeing a lot on HBO, like in reruns, or they would just play it all the time, is John Leguizamo's one-man show.
Oh, yes. The first one was so good. What was the first one? Was that,
why am I blanking on the name?
Freak?
I think it was Freak. It was Freak. There was, like Sexaholic. It was Ghetto Clown.
They got increasingly worse.
Yeah.
But the first ones were really good. Oh my God. John Leguizamo's been in so much shit.
I know. John Leguizamo looks amazing.
Oh, he looks amazing, yeah. He's
like 55 and looks incredible.
He really does. He genuinely does. That first special though, he talked about his father being abusive and and there's that like dramatic scene where his mother leaves his father and everyone goes crazy. And like he played every character and fucking people loved it.
Yeah.
It really was a great. It was Freak. John Leguizamo Freak in 1998, directed by Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Jesus. Wow.
Was there one before that? I feel like 1998. I feel like there was I've seen him in stuff on HBO before that.
Yes. I'm going to say the title of it because it's the title of it. Okay?
Oh, is this the
Spick-O-Rama.
Spick-O-Rama, yeah.
This was 1993.
That's one that I would see a lot.
See, I don't remember that one. That one was the first one. I always thought Freak was the first one.
No, I mean, I guess those two probably blend together in my head for me.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember whichever one it was, probably Spick-O-Rama was where he was talking more about, like, what it was like growing up in his part of New York City and, sort of the Latin culture around him. Whereas Freak was more, like, distinctly about his family. But it is going to sound like a weird sentence, but when I was a kid, I was very into John Leguizamo because I loved the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I loved The Pest.
Ridiculous. Like a booger, I stick to this.
So I was all about Johnny Legs.
I was too. I'm not going to lie to you.
And didn't he have a show on Fox as well? Was he part of House of Buggin'?
Oh, God, I don't know.
Which was like a spin-off of... not a spin-off, but like a spiritual sequel or successor to In Living Color. Where if In Living Color was like African-American centric, this was more like Latino-centric.
Latinx.
Centric. And then, of course, out of the ashes of In Living Color came Mad TV.
I never liked Mad TV.
It's big. Honestly, Mad TV's big selling point was we're on a half hour earlier than SNL. So if it's 11 o'clock,
they really try to hook you in.
Yeah, like if it's 11 o'clock and you're like gearing up to watch SNL, you would go like, I guess I'll watch Mad TV for a half hour.
Yeah.
And they would just hope that you stick around for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it gave us Key and Peele.
Yeah.
And Andy Daly. There were quite a few people who came from Mad TV.
Remember Arliss?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know of Arliss.
It's like a punchline now.
Yeah.
I never watched it. Or maybe I probably did watch it, but I never was like an Arliss fan. It was Robert Wool, right, as a sports agent.
Yeah, I will say, and this is more mid-2000s HBO, but I actually liked Robert Wool did a special where he was like a professor.
I saw that one. That one was good. Yeah.
And it was like a really good, like, fun college lecture.
Yeah, that actually was a good special. I remember that. That's where I learned that it wasn't Paul Revere.
It was Israel Bissell.
Israel Bissell who ran and said the British are coming.
When the rumor becomes, or when the legend becomes fact, print the legend.
Yes.
See, if you would have made more of that, I would be, but Arliss now.
Yeah. Let's talk about early HBO films. Some of them, they too have grown in stature, but some of the early ones are really like of their time.
The Late Shift?
The Late Shift, which was the story of David Letterman and Jay Leno and the fight over the Tonight Show.
Yeah, Kathy Bates, I think, won a Golden Globe or an Emmy for that.
Oh, right. As Leno's crazy agent.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Breast Men?
Yes.
With, what's his name, Ross from Friends?
Yeah. Holy shit.
David Schwimmer. It was about the doctors that invented breast implants.
Yeah.
HBO, baby.
A far cry from Angels in America.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. Well, by the time Angels America happened, which was a famous play that they made into an HBO miniseries, they were into their prestige thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of HBO... let me look up a list, because there's got to be, like, a list.
Of HBO original movies?
Of, like, yeah, all the HBO original movies. And, like, let's run through some of them. Let's see.
For a while in the 2000s, they went by the slogan, "It's not TV, it's HBO." To which Larry David was like, it's TV. Think about this.
Wow, they were making them like all the way in the 80s. They were making them.
Think about this, though. Let's talk about Curb. Curb has been on for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Because it takes like 3 or 4 or sometimes even longer off in between seasons. The first season's like 2000.
Oh, yeah. And it was like originally a special.
Yes. Larry David : Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah. Holy shit. Is this true?
What?
It's by HBO? Three Amigos is an HBO production.
What? But that was theatrical release, wasn't it?
Yeah, some of these are... Yeah, production company, HBO Films. Distributed by Orion Pictures.
Wow.
So they own the rights to it. Like, that's... Wow.
That's crazy. What other HBO films?
There's a lot. Let me start with... Because I'm looking through the 80s, and there's a lot of stuff in the 80s that is just not...
The 90s would ring a bell. For me,
like I'm just going through to see. I'm up to 88 right now. Okay, let's go into the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
The Image, Montana, By Dawn's Early Light, Framed, El Diablo, Women and Men, Stories of Seduction.
Ooh.
Criminal Justice, Somebody Had to Shoot the Picture, Judgment. This is all 1990 still.
Wow. I don't recognize these at all.
Prison Stories, Women on the Inside.
That's got to be sexy.
Switch. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
That's another theatrical release, though.
Yeah. Some of these, not many, but some of them are theatrical releases.
Wow.
Women and Men 2. I'm just going to go through the ones that are notable or that I recognize. For Richer, For Poor. Something called Stepfather 3.
Oh, boy.
Something called Mom and Dad Save the World.
Oh, shit. I've seen that.
Dead Ahead, the Exxon Valdez Disaster.
Whoa. Barbarians
at the Gate. The Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleader Murdering Mom.
I think I've seen that.
Full Eclipse, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. Rasputin, Dark Servant of Destiny.
Oh, jeez.
Norma Jean in Maryland.
Oh, Norma Jean in Maryland. I remember that. There was a Marilyn Monroe biopic.
Yeah. The 1996 version of Gotti.
Oh, shit. Probably better than the new one.
Yeah. If These Walls Could Talk.
Well, that was a big one, If These Walls Can Talk. There was 2 of those.
The Cherokee Kid.
I remember that, but I didn't watch it.
Weapons of Mass Distraction. Path to Paradise. The Untold Story of the World Trade Center Bombing.
Yikes.
Subway Stories.
Subway Stories. I remember that.
Don King, Only in America. I remember that.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Was that Ving Rhames as Don King? Yeah.
In 1997, another theatrical release, Amistad.
Get the fuck out of here. That's a Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah, distributed by DreamWorks Pictures.
Whoa.
Immediately after Amistad, 3 days later, in December 97, Breastmen.
Yeah, that's about right.
Gia.
Okay.
That was Angelina Jolie, yeah.
Yeah.
The Pentagon Wars, Poodle Springs, The Rat Pack.
The Rat Pack. That I remember. That was a good one. That was Ray Liotta as Frank Sinatra, Don Cheadle as Sammy Davis Jr. There was a lot of good people in that.
Introducing Dorothy Dandridge.
I never saw that, but I remember.
RKO 281.
That's the one where Liev Schreiber plays Orson Welles.
And then Witness Protection. And then to jump into the early 2000s for a bit, we got If These Walls Could Talk Too.
Yes.
Last of the Blonde Bombshells. Boycott. 61, which was the baseball movie.
Right.
Conspiracy. Pretty When You Cry. The Laramie Project.
Uh-huh.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
Distributed by IFC Films. So HBO and IFC teaming up on that one. Path to War. Point of Origin. Real Women Have Curves. Live from Baghdad. American Splendor.
Okay.
Harvey Pekar. Maria Full of Grace. Strip Search. Something the Lord Made. The Life and Death of Peter Sellers.
I remember that.
Dirty
That was
War.
Jeffrey Rush as Peter Sellers.
Mm-hmm. Sometime in April. Warm Springs. Last Days. The Notorious Betty Page.
Yeah, I remember that
Idlewild. Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Recount.
Yes.
And then already we're up to 2008, so there's a sharp drop-off in the amount of HBO films.
Wow. But there was a big thing for them.
And I think in the 2000s they also pivoted more towards like
politics.
We're gonna do them every once in a while instead of just like pump them out.
Yeah.
And also like miniseries.
Yeah, miniseries was big for a while. I guess another thing we should talk about is Bill Maher.
Yeah. So do we have to?
Yeah, because
I know. Yeah.
There was a time where that show was, I think, important and good, and he was less of a Islamophobe and less. He's pivoted more towards the libertarian. Yeah, we should fat shame people thing, and I gotta see the heyday of he's had a talk show.
The Iraq War was really his heyday.
Yeah, and the George W. Bush administration. He was a good voice during that time.
Yeah, him and Keith Olbermann, I feel, are like very similar in that way. Where like once the Bush administration ended,
they kind of didn't know what to do.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with themselves.
Right. Yeah, once the Obama administration started, real time with Bill Maher was not what it was. And now in the age of Trump, it just, I don't know. It's honestly,
it's somehow more confusing.
I really don't watch it at all anymore. I see clips now and again because he has become more of an asshole.
Yeah.
But there was a time where, during, like in 2004, when there was the re-election where George W. Bush won again, that whole year was like it was like, oh, it's Friday night, we gotta watch Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta, it was a big deal.
Yeah, like that was definitely.
There was also the Chris Rock show, which was Chris Rock had a talk show on HBO.
Yeah, Louis C.K. was a big part of that.
Yeah, it was sketches and talk.
That's where Pootie Tang came from.
Yes, exactly. And that was kind of early on. That was like.
That was late 90s, I would say.
Yeah, like that was like before he was like the huge star he is now.
Yeah, I would say like he was just hitting like a stride.
Yeah.
With this rock show.
Like it was right off of SNL.
Well, SNL was like early 90s.
Yeah.
Then I think like he kind of found himself doing comedy again because I don't think they were treating him well.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they weren't.
Oh, what about Mr. Show?
Yes, Mr. Show with
Bob and Dave.
Classic sketch comedy show. Really, I think changed sketch comedy.
Yeah, a lot of people. Paul F. Tompkins in that. Brian Posehn.
God, what's your favorite sketch from that?
Oh, God.
It was so irreverent. My favorite sketch is probably the sketch that also like disturbs me the most was the kid who's like he was suicidal, so he was into like this metal band, so he jumped in a vat of acid, and his whole body like was burned and shrank. So like the metal band comes to his hospital bed to like talk to him and like cheer him up, and then like, but it's basically David Cross. His head is coming through. His head is coming through the table, and then underneath it is a puppet of this tiny little shriveled body, and like he's like, "Oh, I'm so hot, and then like Brian Posehn, who plays like the metal guy, like pulls down the blanket, and you see his burned weird body, and they will like freak out. That was a weird one.
Yeah, I would say there's one where like Paul F. Tompkins interrogating Bob Odenkirk for like something he did.
Oh, the lie detector.
Yeah, the lie detector. And they're all just like, no way.
Yeah. Have you ever
eaten a train?
Yeah, have you ever derailed a train with your penis and then eaten it piece by piece? Oh, come on. It was for charity. For charity.
That I like a lot of the little ones, like the Cockring Warehouse.
Yes. Oh God, that was great. Yeah, that was it. HBO it's a mainstay now, and it's sort of part of the culture. I guess the big turnaround was the late '90s. Sex and the City, The Sopranos. That was Sunday night, and it was like these are huge, genre-defining cultural hits.
Let's be honest though, Sex and the City could use a little more sex.
Yeah, it was not very sexy. I
would tune in as a kid and be like, "Oh, Sex and the City." They're spelling it out for you.
I loved it up until the last season. I thought the beginning was very sharp and very funny, and then I think the show got worse. And then
the movies are awful.
Yeah, and the second movie is just unbelievably awful.
Oh God, the second movie is like
it's like a Bob Hope Road film.
Because like the first movie is at least like a decent like approximation of the show.
Yeah.
The second movie is like, hey ladies, we're going to Abu Dhabi. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's pretty fucking terrible. That was a weird thing. It was a weird thing because like in the morning was like baby shit.
And then like hardcore pornography at night.
Yeah.
It's like in the morning you can watch Babar and Madeline.
Right.
And then like once 11 p.m. Yeah, and then like once 11 p.m. rolls around, there's like a guy making puppets with his dick.
Actually, you would experience it really the other way around. You'd be up all night watching.
Oh yeah,
and then the sun would come out and you'd be Babar and you'd be like, "Oh God, what have I done? I've got to go to high school in 5 minutes."
Yeah.
Vin, I think we've said enough. This has been HBO Memories. This is PCMC. I'm your host, Mike Mangiano. I'm here with Vin Forte, host of Wrestle Rap.
Yeah.
You can find Vin at Vin Forte.
Oh no, at Mighty Vin.
At Mighty Vin on the
Twitter.
Twitter. Are you on Instagram?
I am not.
He's not on Instagram, everybody. I am on Instagram at Pop Culture Man Children. Pop Culture Man Children is available anywhere podcasts can be found. We're on every streaming service. All of our episodes are available on the stream. Nothing is behind a paywall. We come at you every Wednesday. And we end every episode by quoting Animal from the Muppet Babies.
Unwrap every day like a precious gift.
No, that's Cousin Brucey. Go bye-bye.